Welcome back, it's Lucy and Ellie from Roman Found.
Now, we get asked plenty of questions about our metal detecting, and we can't always do the answer justice in a reply to the comments. So if you have a question about metal detecting in the UK, or maybe you're just starting out and have received your first ever metal detector in the post, you could just be interested, fascinated, and want to know more about what happens behind the scenes in the digging world of Roman Found.
This video will tell you everything you need to know about metal detecting in the UK.
Here in the UK, we are very lucky that our hobby of metal detecting is so well supported. Unlike some other countries, we have a government scheme that allows and encourages the recording of archaeological objects found by members of the public in England and Wales, so that they add to the archaeological record and don't just sit in a drawer.
This is called the Portable Antiquities Scheme, and since its main introduction in 2003, over 1.5 million items have been recorded to date, and all of these are made publicly available on its online database.
We are self-recorders as part of this scheme, which means that most Fridays I visit our local finds liaison officer, who is an archaeological specialist that every county has, for a 2-hour session logging our latest finds onto the database.
To help with our recording and to protect the contextual data of our finds, every time that we find something that we recognise as historic or of significance, we record the location using the app What 3 Words.
This records the location down to the nearest 3 metre, but recording the location of your finds doesn't just have to be for the archaeologists. Knowing exactly where our finds have come up on our permission gives us a better understanding of just what we are finding and helps us spot patterns and figure out new areas to target based on other finds that we've found in that area.
So what happens to our finds once we find them?
Well, one thing that we certainly don't do with our finds is sell them. We're far too invested in their history to ever part with anything, and a lot of time spent after a dig is in the identification of the artefacts that we've found.
For proper identification to happen, this normally means the cleaning of our finds, which can be a very controversial topic in the trade.
We believe in removing nothing but the dirt from our finds and opt for a very gentle cleaning technique that involves distilled water and cotton buds, employing a dulled wooden toothpick if the dirt is very encrusted, just to gently remove this dirt whilst retaining that all-important patina.
The find has spent hundreds or even thousands of years creating that patina, so it's important to respect it.
We use distilled water specifically, as it contains no other chemicals that are present in tap water that could have an adverse reaction with sometimes the very delicate surface of our finds. We also sometimes use Renaissance wax after a clean, which just seals the artefact and enhances its patina if it's appropriate. This archival wax is removable and used by plenty of museums, as well as being easily available through online sites.
With everything clean, next we get to do the fun bit, identifying them. For this, it's worth investing in a helpful resource library if you can.
Books always trump the internet, especially if they're about the niche that you're searching for, and the vast breadth of the Roman Found library is often essential when it comes to identifying and researching our finds. If we have a grotty Roman, then I tend to know exactly which book to pull that will identify it.
One small tip that we have if you are just starting out is to never throw anything away until you are 100% certain on what it is.
When we first started digging, it was a long learning curve in being able to recognise artefacts out in the field. Some of those medieval artefacts can be rather obscure, so we clean everything and then ask ourselves a very important question. Does this look like it was made or used for anything? In fact, in our very first bag of scrap lead, our flow found a medieval token and an ampula fragment. The more you dig and come across these artefacts, the better you will get at spotting and identifying them.
So cleaned, identified and recorded. If the find does not class as treasure under the Treasure Act, then we get to keep it. However, if it does class as treasure, then we have 14 days to report it to our flow for it to go through the treasure process.
We have a good relationship with our landowner who lets us keep our finds, unless it's the next Sutton Hoo we've been told. But the usual rule of thumb for most landowner relationships is a 50-50 value split, which is the same as in the Treasure Act.
For our finds, we have the Roman Found Finds cabinet, which we picked up from an antique sale, and inside everything is carefully labelled, stored and displayed.
Each artefact has its own ID card where we have its period and use carefully written down, and we like to store our finds in a drawer for each field that they have come from, as opposed to period. We do have big dreams of a full glass display cabinet for the future though.
The real big questions that we get asked are all about the digging. How do you get a permission? What machine is the best? And what tips do you have for a beginner?
So let's tackle getting a permission first. Lots of people within the metal detecting hobby preach securing a permission before you even purchase any of the equipment. This is simply because in the UK you need the landowner's permission to legally start metal detecting, and this is the hardest hurdle that you have to leap entering the hobby.
We aren't going to lie here, it isn't the easiest of tasks.
But the best way to start out is by reaching out to all and every contact that you have who may know somebody who owns a little piece of land. You can't be picky on exactly where you want to dig, and to be truly honest, artefacts are out there everywhere, just waiting to be walked over.
We actually first started in people's back gardens.
There can also be plenty of success had by putting your big boots on and just going up and asking. A very daunting task, and you have to be prepared for rejection, but just by going up, introducing yourself and explaining that you're looking for a place to metal detect can get you in the door if you ask the right farmer. Of course, if this terrifies you, you can also try phoning up or sending a letter. We have had plenty of success over the phone before.
And it can get easier once you get that first permission. It's not all a struggle.
But it is incredibly important to work hard in your relationship with your landowner and farmers. They are essentially doing you a favour letting you on their land, and it's important to give back. We often pop over to our landowner for a cup of tea after a dig or to take the latest finds around to show. Complete transparency goes a very long way, as does chocolate at Christmas, or maybe a bottle. You will find that most farmers know each other, so getting on good terms can help in putting a good word for you on their mate Jim's farm over the road.
Out on your permission, you will often come across members of the public, and they are always intrigued by what you are doing, so stop and talk to them. We've had offers of new land this way before, and it helps people understand your intentions and get to know you better.
So the detector, possibly the most important piece of equipment for metal detecting, and there's certainly a lot of choice out there on the market, and it can feel incredibly daunting starting out and picking one.
But there are a few metal detectors that we would recommend to those just starting out.
Our first ever detector was a minelab Vanquish 340, which retails for £229, and that will always be top of our recommends. You don't need all the bells and whistles to find something. If it's there and you walk over it, you will find it. We found everything from gold to silver to Roman with the Vanquish, and it's an excellent starter machine.
The Nocta Simplex is another excellent starter machine. It's like the Vanquish, an affordable multi-frequency machine that offers a lot of user-friendly features, as well as being fully waterproof up to 5 meters, something that the Vanquish is lacking.
We would recommend not going too deep into the wallet to start with and investing in a starter machine. Metal detectors don't tend to lose too much of their value second-hand, so there's always the option of upgrading down the line, which is exactly what we did going from the minelab Vanquish to the minelab Equinox 800.
It's always handy to have a backup machine as well, especially one that's geared up for beginners if you want to introduce friends to the hobby.
But if you want to go all out and you want a big gun metal detector, then it is important to first establish where you are planning on mainly digging. Is it the beach, is it arable land, or is it pasture?
Different machines have their different strengths, but here is what we would recommend for each of those different conditions.
For best performance on the beach, the Nocta Legend is a solid choice. It retails for £689 and is an excellent multi-frequency detector. It also comes with headphones, and these Nocta headphones are actually the ones that Lucy uses for a minelab Equinox. They're just super comfy and the best pair we've ever used.
On arable land such as ploughed farmland, then the Deus 2 is meant to be king. Retailing at £1,399, it does once again come with headphones.
But on pasture, the minelab Equinox 800 like we have is a weapon. It retails for £899 and is our favourite machine. It's recently been upgraded by the Equinox 900, but we haven't had any experience with one of these yet, and it does retail for £1,099. But we can't forget the Nocta Legend here either, which also performs really well on pasture and is a brilliant all-rounder for its price. But of course, the metal detector isn't the only equipment that you need to go digging, but for the essentials, so long as you have a good pinpointer which will help you locate the find in the hole, a spade for digging the hole, and somewhere to put the finds you're finding, then you're pretty much good to go. Some people will preach about the best pinpointers and spades too, but we won't get into that. Instead, we'll just tell you what we love and use, which is the XP MI4 pinpointer and a £12 B&Q spade. It doesn't always have to be complicated, and it doesn't always have to be expensive.
But what do you do with all this kit?
Well, dig of course. Here at Roman Fan we do things a little bit differently than the norm, choosing to operate as one digging unit. Lucy finds the target, I dig it, Lucy captures the content. It's a bit unique, it's a bit unusual out on a group dig, but it's our system and we don't mess with it. It's a little bit more fun than going out alone.
Out in the field, as long as you stick to a few golden rules, then you can't really go too wrong.
We fill all of our holes in, respect the land and take the trash that we dig with us, leaving the location looking the same as when we first arrived. This helps us keep respect with the landowner and is just considerate metallotectic practice.
Of course, leaving the land as you found it can be a little bit tricky on pasture, but we do have a tip for that.
The most important technique that you can learn is digging a three-sided plug. It's quite simple, just cut a U-shape out into the earth with your spade, then the top of the U that you haven't cut acts as a handy hinge for leaving the clod out of the ground with, and it's essential for placing that clod back exactly where it came from, making for minimal disturbance, and it doesn't cut off the flow of nutrients to the grass either, so it won't leave a dead patch in your wake. On the note of digging holes, we also recommend wearing gloves. You never know what nasties could be hiding in the ground, and you often only see us with our gloves off to handle a recently excavated find or to pick up a delicate artefact where better control is needed. We also normally spray distilled water upon a find in the field if we are sure it won't cause damage.
An important part of digging practice is also knowing when to stop. If you believe you have come across something of historical significance, such as a buried hoard or important artifact, then the best thing to do is stop and get on the phone to Flow.
Some locations also prohibit metallotecting, such as scheduled monuments and sites of specific interest, so it is important to check before you get stuck in and dig those holes.
But the most important thing is to just have fun. Feel free to be random and potter.
Often people will preach the method of gridding, and yes, this is a tried and tested technique, but so is following your heart and the vibes. It's your time out in the fields and it's your time to enjoy it, so have fun and find the treasure.
We hope this has been helpful and revealed a little bit more to you about the world of metal detecting.
But if you want to see some of this practice in action, then be sure to check out our latest adventures on our channel. If you're feeling inspired and want to get out digging, then we've got a 10% discount code off at LP Metal Detecting, so treat yourself to some new gear.
The link's in the description.